The hauler's nightmare Christmas morning, a truck stop outside Midland, Texas. A Peterbilt 389 sits crooked in the parking lot, engine still running, driver's door hanging open. Blood smears the steering wheel, more blood on the dash. Drag marks lead from the cab to where a man sits against the front tire, shaking, a cigarette burning forgotten between his fingers. His name is Raymond Holt. He is 43 years old. 12 hours ago, he was a long-haul driver with a clean record and a wife waiting in El Paso. Now he is something else. His shirt is torn. 3 parallel gashes run from his shoulder to his chest, shallow but ragged, like something had tasted him and decided to wait. His eyes won't focus. His lips keep moving, forming words no one can hear. A state trooper approaches carefully. "Sir? Sir, can you tell me what happened?" Raymond looks up. His voice comes out broken, scraped raw. "She wasn't human. She was never human. And now they know my name." The trooper frowns. "Who knows your name?" Raymond doesn't answer. Instead, he points beneath his truck, at the undercarriage, at something wired to the frame that wasn't there yesterday. Bones. Small bones, wrapped in copper wire. Chewed antlers tied with what looks like human hair. A tag. A marker. A Christmas ornament for something that hunts. "They're coming back," Raymond whispers. "They always come back for what they've marked." This is his story. But it is not the only story, because Christmas on the Texas highways is not about lights or carols. It's about keeping your eyes open and surviving the night. Before we begin, I want to thank every soul that keeps returning to listen. You've turned whispers into echoes. If you haven't already, subscribe and stay close, because what you're about to hear is one story you won't forget. Part 1. The Woman at the Way Station. December 24th. Outside Lubbock, Texas. Raymond Holt had been driving for 19 hours when he saw her. The way station outside Lubbock was supposed to be closed. It always closed on Christmas Eve. Chain across the entrance. Lights. Dark. Raymond knew this stretch of I-27 like he knew his own hands. 14 years of hauling freight across Texas had carved every mile into his memory. The way station closed at 6. It was nearly midnight now, but someone was standing in the entrance. A woman, waving. Raymond's foot eased off the accelerator. His rig, a cherry-red Peterbilt he'd named Delilah after his first wife, groaned as the speed dropped. In his headlights, the woman became clearer, thin, dark hair, wearing a dress that looked too light for the cold. It was 31 degrees outside, wind cutting across the plains like a blade. And she was waving like her life depended on it. Raymond wasn't a hero. He'd passed plenty of people on roadsides over the years. Hitchhikers, broken-down families, kids with cardboard signs. You learn to keep moving. The highway taught you that. Stop for the wrong person, and you might not start again. But it was Christmas Eve, and she looked so desperate, and somewhere in the back of Raymond's mind, his mother's voice whispered about good Samaritans and doing unto others. He pulled off the highway. The way station was dark except for his headlights. Empty scale platforms, a shuttered inspection booth. The woman stood near the entrance, arms wrapped around herself, shivering. Raymond climbed down from the cab, boots crunching on frozen gravel. The cold hit him immediately. Sharp, clean, the kind of cold that made your lungs ache. "Ma'am, you all right?" She turned toward him. Raymond's first thought was that she was pretty. His second thought, arriving half a heartbeat later was that something was wrong with her face. Her smile was too stiff, like someone had arranged her features into an expression they'd seen in photographs but didn't quite understand. Her eyes caught his headlights and reflected them back, but the reflection was wrong, too bright, too yellow. And the smell. Raymond had hauled a lot of things in his career, livestock, chemicals, once a load of medical waste that had made him gag for 300 miles. He knew bad smells. But this was something different. Perfume, sickly sweet, like flowers rotting in standing water, and underneath it, rust, old blood, the smell of a slaughterhouse floor that hadn't been cleaned. "My car broke down," the woman said. Her voice was pleasant, normal, but it didn't match her mouth. The words arriving a fraction of a second after her lips moved. "I've been waiting for hours. No one stops anymore." "Where's your car?" She gestured vaguely toward the darkness beyond the way station. "Back there, off the service road." I walked. Raymond looked at her feet. She was wearing heels, thin heels that would have snapped on gravel, that would have frozen her toes off in this cold. But they were pristine, not a scratch. And her shadow. Raymond noticed it in his peripheral vision and felt his stomach clench. His headlights were behind him, which meant his shadow stretched forward toward the woman. But her shadow stretched the wrong way, away from the light, longer than it should be, reaching toward the empty darkness of the way station like it was trying to escape. "You should come warm up," he heard himself say. The words came out automatically, his mouth operating on politeness, while his brain screamed warnings. "I've got coffee in the cab. We can call someone." Her smile widened, too wide. The corners of her mouth pulled back past where they should stop. "That's so kind of you." She moved toward him. Her gait was wrong, too smooth, like she was gliding rather than walking. Raymond backed toward his truck, fumbling for the door handle. They sat in the cab together. Raymond poured her coffee from his thermos, but she didn't drink it. She just held the cup, letting steam curl around her face, watching him with those two bright eyes. "Long night?" she asked. "Trying to make El Paso by morning. Wife's waiting." "That's nice, having someone waiting." Her head tilted. The angle was wrong. Too far, like her neck had extra joints. "I don't have anyone waiting. Not anymore." The cab felt smaller suddenly. The heater was running, but Raymond could see his breath. The temperature was dropping. "You must get lonely," she continued. "All those miles, all those empty nights, stopping at places like this, where no one can hear you." Raymond's hand moved toward the door handle, slowly, carefully. "I should radio for help," he said. "Get you a tow truck." "Don't." Her hand closed around his wrist. Her grip was cold. Not cool. Cold. Like grabbing a pipe that had been sitting in a freezer, and strong. Impossibly strong for fingers that thin. "Stay," she whispered. "Share a drink with me. It's Christmas Eve. No one should be alone on Christmas Eve." She produced a bottle from somewhere. Raymond didn't see where. Small, dark glass, unlabeled. Just one drink to celebrate the season. Raymond knew he should refuse. Everything in him was screaming. His instincts, his experience, that voice that sounded like his dead grandmother, warning him about strangers. But her grip on his wrist was like iron, and her eyes had changed, the pupils expanding until there was nothing but black. And when he opened his mouth to say no, She poured the liquid past his lips. It tasted like honey and ash. His limbs went numb immediately. The last thing Raymond saw before darkness took him was her face, splitting down the middle, the skin peeling back like a flower blooming in reverse, revealing something beneath that had too many teeth, too many rows, clicking together like ice cubes in an empty glass. Raymond woke to pain. He was still in his cab, but he couldn't move. Something had pinned him. Not physically, but chemically. His muscles wouldn't respond. He could only move his eyes. And something was leaning over him. It wore her face, the woman's face, but it wore it wrong. Stretched over a skull that was the wrong shape, features sliding and settling like a mask that didn't fit. Its mouth was open, and inside, Raymond could see rows of teeth extending back into darkness. Its breath smelled like the graves of things that had never been properly human. It was touching him, running fingers, too long, too jointed, across his chest, his arms, his face, tasting him, learning him. Good, it whispered. The voice was layered now, hers and something else, something that buzzed and clicked. Strong, healthy, you'll last a long time. It leaned closer, its tongue, black, forked, dripping something that burned, traced a line from Raymond's collar to his jaw. Then it began to cut. 3 shallow lines, shoulder to chest. The pain broke through the paralysis enough to make Raymond scream. A weak, strangled sound that died in his throat. Marked, the thing said. Mine now. When I'm hungry again, I'll find you. That's how it works. That's the Christmas gift. It smiled with her mouth. Then it was gone. Raymond didn't know how long he lay there. Hours, maybe. The paralysis faded slowly, feeling returning to his limbs like fire spreading through dead wood. When he could finally move, he crawled out of the cab and vomited into the frozen dirt. Dawn was breaking, pink light spreading across the Texas plains. He was alone. The way station was empty. There were no footprints in the frost except his own. But when he crawled under his truck, some instinct driving him, some need to check, he found it, wired to the frame, hidden from casual observation. Bones. Small bones that might have been animal, might have been something else. Antlers, chewed and cracked, wrapped in copper wire. A few strands of hair, brown like his. A tag, a marker, a promise that it would be back. Raymond drove to the nearest truck stop and collapsed. But even now, sitting in the Christmas morning light, surrounded by people and noise and life, he can still smell her, perfume and rust, getting closer. Raymond Holt was not the first trucker to be marked, and he would not be the last. That same night, on a different highway, 2 brothers were about to learn what wears a red suit when it hunts. Part 2. Santa on the service road. December 24th. Outside Amarillo, Texas. The Mercer brothers had been hauling together for 6 years. Evan was the older one, 34, steady, the kind of driver who checked his mirrors every 8 seconds and never exceeded the speed limit. Cole was 29, restless, always tapping his fingers on the dash, always talking about the day he'd save enough to quit trucking and open a bar somewhere warm. They were hauling frozen meat from a processing plant in Oklahoma City to a distribution center in Albuquerque. 40,000 pounds of beef carcasses packed in dry ice, scheduled for Christmas dinner tables across the Southwest. The route took them through Amarillo. It was nearly 2 in the morning when they saw him. The service road ran parallel to I-40, a shortcut the brothers used to avoid the way stations when they were running heavy. It was empty this time of night, nothing but flat land and fence posts, and the occasional oil pump nodding in the darkness. And then, in their headlights, a figure standing in the middle of the road, dressed as Santa Claus. What the hell? Cole leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. Is that a Santa? Evan was already braking. The rig groaned, air brakes hissing, 40 tons of steel and meat slowing from 60 to nothing. The figure didn't move. As they got closer, details emerged. The suit was red, but wrong, darker in patches, soaked with something that glistened wetly under the headlights. The beard was white, but matted, clumped, stained with streaks of black and brown. The figure raised one hand in greeting. "Don't stop," Cole said suddenly. His voice had changed, higher, tighter. "Evan, don't stop. Something's wrong. I can't just... Don't stop." But it was too late. The rig shuddered to a halt, 20 feet from the figure. For a long moment, nothing moved. The brothers sat in the cab, engine idling, heater humming, watching the thing in the Santa suit to watch them back. Then it smiled and began to walk. It moved wrong. Too fast for the steps it was taking, like a video playing at the wrong speed. Its joints bent at angles that made Cole's stomach turn. Knees bending backward, elbows rotating too far, spine curving and uncurving like a snake made of bone. It reached the side of the truck and began to scratch. The sound was indescribable. Metal shrieking, nail, claws, raking down the trailer walls, leaving furrows in steel that shouldn't be possible. And as it scratched, it sang Christmas carols. Silent night, but wrong. The voice was layered, a man's voice, a woman's voice, a child's voice, and underneath them all something screaming, something that had been screaming for a very long time. "Go," Cole whispered. "Evan, go. Go now." Evan's hands were frozen on the wheel. The thing in the Santa suit appeared at his window. Up close, it was worse. The suit wasn't stained with dirt. It was stained with blood. Old blood, dried black, crusted into the fabric. The beard wasn't matted with grime. It was matted with gore, chunks of something that might have been meat, might have been something else. And the face behind the beard wasn't human. It had been once, maybe, but something had stretched it, pulled it, rearranged it into a configuration that belonged in nightmares. It pressed one hand against the glass. The hand had claws, long black, curved like fish hooks. "Ho, ho, ho," it said. The voice came from everywhere, inside the cab, inside their heads. "Who's been naughty this year?" Evan screamed and floored the accelerator. The rig lurched forward, engine roaring, tires spinning on asphalt. They plowed past the figure, clipping it, feeling something crunch beneath the wheels. Cole twisted to look back. The figure was standing, unharmed, still smiling, and then it began to run. It shouldn't have been able to keep up. The rig was doing 60, 70, the engine screaming as Evan pushed it harder than he ever had. But the thing in the Santa suit was there, beside them, behind them, on top of them. They could hear it on the roof, claws scraping, that layered voice still singing carols, mixed with screams. "The exit!" Cole shouted. "There's an exit up ahead." Evan saw it. A gas station, lights, people. He yanked the wheel. The rig fishtailed, trailer swinging wide, and for one terrible moment, Cole was sure they were going to jackknife. But Evan held it, barely. and they roared into the gas station parking lot, horn blaring, brakes smoking. The thing on the roof was gone. They sat there for an hour, shaking, refusing to leave the cab. Finally, as dawn began to lighten the sky, Cole opened his door. "I need to check the trailer," he said. "Something hit us. I need to see—" "Don't." But Cole was already climbing down. He walked to the back of the trailer. The doors were still sealed. He'd locked them himself in Oklahoma City. But something was wrong. He could smell it. Copper, blood, and something else. Pine needles, Christmas trees, and sleigh bells. The sound came from behind him. Cole turned. The thing in the Santa suit stood 3 feet away. "Merry Christmas," it whispered. Cole screamed. Evan heard it from the cab. A scream that cut off too quickly, followed by a wet sound he would hear in his nightmares for the rest of his life. He threw open his door, scrambling out, shouting his brother's name. The parking lot was empty. Cole was gone. All that was left was a trail of blood leading toward the fence line. And in the blood, pressed into the wet concrete, boot prints. Santa's boot prints, leading into the snow-dusted scrubland beyond, and tied to the trailer door handle, swinging gently in the dawn breeze. Sleigh bells, strung together with something that wasn't string. Sinew, human sinew. Evan followed the boot prints until they vanished. They just stopped, 50 feet from the fence, like whatever made them had simply stepped into the sky and disappeared. Cole Mercer was never found. The official report said he must have wandered off during a mental break. Trucker fatigue, isolation, the stress of driving on Christmas Eve. These things happened. But Evan knows better. He quit trucking that week, moved to Florida, hasn't touched a Christmas decoration since. But sometimes, late at night when the wind blows just right, he hears it. Sleigh bells and a voice singing carols in a harmony of screams. Evan Mercer never drove again. But the highways didn't care. The highways kept taking, and 100 miles south, a veteran trucker was about to make the mistake of her life. It always takes its due, and somewhere on a Texas highway tonight, an 18-wheeler is pulling into a closed way station, headlights catching a woman waving in the dark. She looks so cold. She looks so desperate. And the trucker, tired, lonely, thinking about home, is reaching for the door handle, opening the door, stepping out into the freezing night. "Ma'am, you all right?" She turns toward him and smiles.